this week's style video. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my top tips on how to keep your vintage looking fresh, like I send it out to you. So vintage is obviously delicate, it's old. Some of the processes for making clothing weren't as advanced as they are now. So my top tip really is, if in doubt, hand wash it out. So hand washing is obviously a very kind way to wash your clothes. It's not harsh on the fabrics, and you're doing it by hand, so you can control how much force you use. And that's how I wash something that's really delicate, like silks, wedding dresses especially. They're so delicate. And also really fine knitwear, which I've got some to show you later in a minute how I do that. And then if you've got like a little bit of a stain on there, always sort of work your way up to the harshness level, I think. So Vanish, just a plain white bar of soap, is the best thing you will ever own in your washing arsenal kit. It is the #1 thing that I use to get out most stains. If you keep using it over and over again, it will get rid of even the hardest of stains. Obviously, if it's oil based, I would recommend that you use something like washing up liquid, which is obviously always in your house. And it's actually quite gentle, surprisingly, as if you are an animal lover like I am. You will know that they will use it on birds when they get covered in oil to remove the oil slick from their feathers. So that's another good top tip. And yeah, just sort of work your way up to like a more extreme sort of cleaning method. So there are specialist cleaning things out there for like rust, because that is a really hard thing to get out of things. Biro, surprisingly really hard to get out of things. And there are specialist things on the market for you to buy to get rid of those items, but they can be quite harsh to fabric, so I really would recommend, even if you don't think it's going to work, it's always worth a try. There's also something that my mum gave me, thanks for me, it's like a little white sponge. Just see if I can find it and I'll show you in a second. And it is literally just like a little bit of foam, or more or less, but it's called a magic sponge. So I use this to get like little marks out of leather, like suede. Again, very delicate, isn't it? And that surprisingly it really just works so well. So that's another thing that I use. What else? Also my washing machine, I have a sort of a wool setting, which I use for really delicate fabrics, but things that would still okay to go in the washing machine, but need a bit of a spruce up. So that's what I use on those, which I'm sure you have in your washing machine too. What else? I just use normal soaps like Persil powder, just normal white biological powder, and then my favourite smelling of the moment, Comfort fabric softener, whatever brand there is out there, but definitely white soap, something called a magic eraser, which I will try and find you, I don't know where I put it, so you can see. And hand washing, it really is the best way for you to keep your vintage looking tip top and lasting for many more years to come. So I'm going to show you some action shots now. Okay, so here I've just got some hand warm water, some normal like powder, and a little bit of fabric conditioner, and then my trusty Vanish bar here. And I'm just doing it outside today just for this video because it's easy for me to film. So this is a really pretty like vintage shawl, but it's quite dusty. So I'm just going to let it sink in there. And like, this is all hand knitted 4-ply wool, so it's really fine and delicate. So it's best really not to mess around with it too much. Turn it every now and again to make sure all the sides have had a good soak. But I would let this drip dry as well, because it is delicate. You don't want it to stretch out with the weight of the water. And that's the same with like if you've got a really nice vintage dress that you want to wash, which is really delicate, like vintage lace is very fine and delicate. I would use just a bit of sort of tap warm water in your bath, and then literally just turn it over once. That's it. Leave it for half an hour on each side, and you'll be surprised at how much stuff you get out. Let it drip dry, and you'll be a very happy little gal. So I'm going to leave that in there for about 20 minutes and then come back to it. Okay, so whilst my hand wash items are drip drying outside, I'm going to show you my magic eraser, which I managed to find. So as you can see, it's like just like a little bit of foam, but it's really magic actually. It lives up to its name. I get little scuffs off any suede or leather items that you may have, so I recommend you get one of those, like dirt cheap, and actually they can get marks off your walls. Top tip. And then if you've got like dried on ballpoint pen, if you use like methylated spirits and some washing up liquid, that is a really good way of getting that off. Just little as you go. If you need more, you can always put more on, but you can't take it off, can you? Milk, everyone knows that smell of dried stale milk on carpet or anything is just the worst, isn't it? So again, some sterilising solution and rinse through with water, that's a good way to get that off. It sort of neutralises the smell of milk, which is really good, so I'd recommend that if you've had a few too many red wine glasses on Friday night. I would recommend blotting it whilst as soon as you can, so dried blah 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 a bit of just bread, that's a really good way to sort of blot that up. It's so absorbent, really good. And then using white wine, just little, and rinse through with water. That is a good way to get red wine out of clothing or fabrics in general. Alcohol, anything other than wine basically, I would use a little bit of washing up liquid with 1 part white vinegar and 3 parts water and rinse. So again, that is washing up liquid, 1 part, I can't speak today, 1 part white vinegar and 3 parts water and rinse. That is good for getting out any alcohol stains. Wax, ugh, so hard to get wax out, isn't it? Ugh, so hard, especially on a delicate solution. But the best thing to do with this is leave it to go hard and then cover with like greaseproof paper and apply a hot iron on top. So you've got the wax, greaseproof paper, hot iron, hot as you can go, and then rinse with hot water. If it is a super delicate fabric like silk, which you shouldn't have any heat on, I recommend the greaseproof paper and then a tea towel and then the hot iron, because it's just like an extra layer of protection, or maybe just sort of work up to the heat. Grass, really hard actually to get grass out, isn't it? Nail polish remover is a good one, and then rinse with washing up liquid and water. But again, just use a little bit of washing up liquid, nail polish remover, like, you know, the little lids, I just fill that up and put that into a bit of water. That's a good way to get that out. If you get blood or anything, which is a bit weird, you know, nosebleeds and all. Add salt water to warm water and rinse thoroughly. That's a good way to get that out. Sorry, I keep talking with my hands, don't I? And then lipstick, everyone has unfortunately got a bit of red lipstick on everything. I hate it when I do that, I'm always so annoyed with myself. But a really good way to get that out is nail polish remover and then rinse with washing up liquid and water. So there are my top tips for getting some stains out of your beautiful vintage clothing, and they are that's how I care for my vintage clothes, and I have done for many years, and they look just as good as when I first found them, and I imagine just as good as when they were first made. So I hope you've enjoyed my how to look after your vintage clothing video. If you've got any questions or comments, or if you'd like to share your top tips, please leave a comment below, and if you haven't done already, make sure you subscribe, because I've got lots of more interesting and more fun, possibly, videos planned for the next coming weeks, and I can't wait to share with you all my vintage endeavours and journeys and love and just pure joy. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's Rachel, and I can't wait to see you next Monday.